least. I think that we who voted for our politicians to go in to deliver the end of the protocol are doing exactly what we asked them to do. And at the final stages here, which may be the final stages of it, we don't know, I am urging to do not give in to all sorts of pressure. I am not sort of up to fare with all the ins and outs politically of how this affects us, but I do know that, as I said to you previously, what concerns me is that this protocol and the manifestation of it makes everything far easier for United Ireland if and when there was votes for it, and those people who and I see a weak side of unionism, which I'm not happy with, which I feel that
the Doug Beattie side of unionism?
The Doug Beattie side of unionism, to be quite honest with you, and I said this before, they need to turn around and realise that the reason they're hemorrhaging votes from unionism is because I personally don't believe that they're trying to represent unionism as a whole. Now, there's different factions within unionism, we all know that, and the Alliance have been the political party who's been benefiting from all this hemorrhaging of the Ulster Unionist Party. But in and around that, I have to say, those unionists who vote for the Alliance Party have a big shock coming to them. And if you go back a lot of weeks back, when there was stuff going on in reference to the Northern Ireland issue around the sharing of power of Northern Ireland with the Irish Republic, the Alliance Party came on the radio and said that that's near enough what they wanted. So those unionists who are voting for the Alliance Party need to be very careful, because me looking outside in at the Alliance Party, them not wanting they want to sit on the fence and not wanting to say whether they're pro United Ireland or anti. To me, they're pro United Ireland, and I think they've proved that in the last lot of months. So those within our family and within unionism, and those who think because they are voting for the Alliance Party that they're a middle of the road, they're a great this and they're great that because they don't involve themselves with those dirty loyalists or dirty unionists, that makes them cleaner and that makes them better people. But they have a shock coming, because at the end of the day, I believe the Alliance Party is just another SDLP, because I believe that the media, when you look at consistently in the media, I see these people coming on from the Alliance Party, and it's constantly to have a go at unionism, have a go at loyalism. All that stuff really frustrates me, because I see programmes being done, and one in particular was done not so long ago in reference to racketeering, money being loaned to people and stuff like that. I think it was Monty McCauley that done it. And what took me back about that programme was, at the very outset, the police said that there was this happening in both communities. So the programme goes on and on, but does the programme show you a tricolour, or does the programme take you into a nationalist area? Does the programme emphasise anything on the nationalist side of where this is happening? No. Did the programme emphasise on any of the good work that the three groups within Loyalism's doing, ACT, Charter and Reach, who were constantly making food parcels up, taking them round to people, doing all that positive stuff? Was there any mention of it? No. And you know what frustrates me about it? Is that on that issue itself, months back, Naomi Long came out and said about this, right? This is before the programme was done. And when Naomi Long came out about this, and I looked at the work that the lads in our office had done, the hours they'd spent making food parcels, going around and getting food from different places and all the rest of it. And I was so angry, I went to her office. She wasn't in. I left a message with one of her workers, and also, would you please contact me, left my details, and said that if any way that I could help and expose these people, we would do it. But at the end of the day, you need to also understand that there's people out there doing so much positive work within the Loyalist community. And if you're going to talk about that, then please talk about the positive side of loyalism. And it didn't happen. And then I think it was within about 6 to 9 months, Monty Macaulay's programme came on the television. So this constant dad against our people, not there, it feeds into the protocol. It feeds into the analysation of what loyalists are about. It feeds into an agenda, if you ask me, that there's certain media people have. Not all newspapers and broadcasts are bad against the unionist people, but the biggest percentage that I listen to are very, very anti-loyalism, anti what we're fighting against in the protocol. And in all that, you see the lowest parts, which is making people feel that we are not human beings. We don't worry about someone's pain. We don't worry about someone else's pain because we're sitting outside the protocol. And if we only went back in, that problem would be sorted and this problem would be sorted. I said the other day, my wife's waiting on the operation for 5 years. I've had a urine infection for 1.5 years, trying to get it sorted. So, those things there, as far as I'm concerned, are what goes on in life. And I worry about that with my wife, and I worry about myself and my own family, and all the people who have all those ills. But stop putting that on to a political party who have been given a mandate by the people, and they're following that mandate through. And that's not just the one thing I've heard over the last sort of 9 months, 2 years, as much as that. Some of the stuff that I've heard on TV and radio and blaming our political people for that, sinful. It's sinful, and it's so easy to realise what they're at,
I'm sure you've seen maybe last week or the week before the Supreme Court judgment on the protocol, and part of that was about the principle of consent and how it didn't actually do what people like you were promised in 1998. I know we spoke about that before, but now that's been confirmed by the Supreme Court that essentially unionism was duped in 1998. How does that make you feel? How would that have made people around you at the time feel? David Irvine, Gusty Spence, people who are no longer with us. How do you think they would have felt?
The principle of consent was the basis of the two communities being able to not override each other and put something in to the agreement that was distasteful or unacceptable to the nationalist community and likewise the unionist community. And as was said before, they've just steamrolled over it and just ignored it. And you noticed lately, Jamie referenced around that, is that now that nationalism is on the rise politically and that they have the largest political party, and that some of these things don't seem to be as some of these things to be as sacred as what they wanted them to be. Whenever we had to sit back and take all the stuff that we had to take and all the stuff that we had to give to get this process going within loyalism and within unionism, which would have went nowhere without the loyalist political people walking in and agreeing and all that stuff. But it's funny, Jamie, when you see that. I find it so laughable when I hear Sinn Féin politicians coming on now and saying, another one saying, well, sure, we could do this without them and do that without them. And then you say to yourself, what was that all about?
Yeah.
That principle of consent was meant to be because they were a smaller entity at the time and they hadn't got as many politicians representing themselves at the time.
Do you see any way back for loyalism's support for the Belfast Agreement, save for what's now been exposed as the deception in the principle of consent being fixed? In the absence of that being fixed, given it was the core basis upon which people like you advocated for the agreement, do you think loyalism's finished with the agreement unless it's fixed to reflect what you believed you had achieved in 1998?
Well, Jimmy, I seen a lot of things going wrong after the Good Friday Agreement. Within 2-3 years of the Good Friday Agreement, I've seen a lot of things. I was watching a lot of things that were happening to my community that should have been a positive, and to the national community that were a positive but weren't happening to my community. So slowly but surely, my erosion and support for the Good Friday Agreement was being done on a weekly basis, watching the stuff that was going on. how could we come back from where we were supporting the Good Friday Agreement to now? Well, it hasn't been just the British government who has, on the European, but the Irish government, who should have knew better. The Irish government again had a chance to step aside. Well, they had a chance there. We've been having overtures from the Irish government coming to us in the last 9 months, 6 to 9 months, right? We're letting Matt McCovey, as I said this all before, but there was emissaries at us wanting to meet with us to talk in reference to how do we fix this, how do we get a relationship back with the unionist loyalist people. And we're constantly said, no, you can't, you have went too far, you're using this politically for your own gains in the south, and this is about having a go at the British government, where you could have been supporting some of the stuff that the unionist people wanted. And when the issue of joint sovereignty came up, you remember it became an issue for a few days. Did the Irish government come in right away and say no? No, they didn't. The Alliance Party, they didn't. They actually went and said this is practically on the table. So, when I looked at that and I said to myself, they had a chance. They're telling us they want to try and build a relationship. They don't. It's all noise. It's all noise. And around the Good Friday Agreement, is there a way back for it? I doubt it very much. And I doubt it for the reasons that is we've been duped once, Jamie. And when I say duped, I mean not and all the reasons that I had given you in the last interview were all prime and important, and we had to give all that to save lives, to stop killing, to stop this country getting continuing down the road where our communities and the nationalist community were getting slaughtered, by each other. So that's what that was needed there. But the Good Friday Agreement has been destroyed so much through this protocol. I don't see a way back for it.
And do you think it's Billy Hutchison said an article maybe 4 or 5 months ago, and he said, and I know you were all in the line to see him negotiating teams and whatever at the time of the agreement, and he said that had the loyalist negotiators known in not only 1998 but 1994, when you were trying to persuade the organisations to call a ceasefire, had you known then what you know now, he felt you would have been unsuccessful, you wouldn't have been able to persuade people. Do you think that's right?
Couldn't have sold it. And you're saying to me, Jimmy, was I right? And I have friends saying to me, I told you so. And
remember you made it outside the skin
centre. And I told you so, and I told you so. But as far as I'm concerned, I'm not ashamed of saying that I wanted the violence to end and people to live. There's people alive today would never be alive if it hadn't been for the loyalists walking in and Republicans doing what they've done. But it all seemed to be around Republicans, it all seemed to be around their side of the conflict, that they could damage United Kingdom, and they proved that in the last couple of bombings that they've done. Here's what we can do if you don't give us what we want in this agreement, But
just on that, Jim, for you, because I know you say that, and clearly they obtain significant political leverage, the man. Does it concern you then, I know we touched on this before, how the Irish government and Irish nationalism again weaponised that threat of IRA bombs in relation to the protocol? Did that send a really dangerous message to a new generation of loyalists who would then think, well, what's good for the goose is good for the gander?
Jimmy, I've said this on more interviews than enough. What we're teaching our kids is violence and the threat of violence pays. There's no question about that. When you get a prime minister going around Europe showing photographs of the conflict and telling people in Europe to attain what they want to attain, and tell them, if you don't do this or that, this is what's going to happen in Northern Ireland, because the Republicans will go back to war and they'll do this and they'll do that. Well, that's a threat of violence. That's the threat of violence. And if you're conceding constantly to the threat of violence, and I've said this, what do you think our kids are looking at? Do you think our kids are not looking and saying, hold on a minute here, they got this? And like I said this on I think it was Newsnight one night, and I told them, I says, this is not the way as a society should be living and bringing their kids up. You know what I mean? So, you want something, go out and threaten, you'll do this. And if you don't get it, well, threaten to go out and do it.
Yeah.
You know, and that to me, Jamie, is not a society that we should be telling our kids that they need to do to attain some. It needs to be done in a way that's genuine and honest and supported by democracy. But, you know, the Irish government have a hell of a lot to answer for. And, like, don't get me wrong, they're playing a game, Jamie. Yeah. They're playing a masterful game in the sense that they're doing well. They're going to do well economically out of this, a hell of a bit better than anybody.
Yeah.
And
do you worry? Do you think people are underestimating the actual extent and the problems within particularly young loyalists and working class areas and that anger? Maybe because, I know we're going to come on to talk about the media, but maybe because they don't have the same type of platform and as people from the nationalist community would have, yeah. and they've been so demonised and treated as second-class citizens. Do you think that people underestimate the extent of the anger in loyal? I mean, you've been around, longer than I dare to put an age out, 40, 50 years from the very start. I mean, do you see people try and talk it down? Do you think there's a genuine anger and danger?
Jimmy, there's a breaking point. There's a breaking point in every community for.
Do you think we're close to it?
I think the way to be honest with you, I think the fact that, and I said this before, the fact that you give us a way of expressing our anger and our fears and our worries about the protocol and the street marches and the protests and that let a lot of valves loose and a lot of valves free. People are watching this space to ensure that no one goes and does something that they shouldn't do, because, look, let's be honest about it, the three loyalist main groups are still sitting there. They're sitting there and they're not going away because violent republicanism hasn't went away. When people say about why they're still here, well, you know, violent republicanism are still out there killing people. You know, they're still, and they can go back to war at any stage and any time. And I'm not making excuses for the paramilitary organisations to be in existence just because they're out there, because I feel there's a lot of stuff going on that's destroying loyalism. You know, but you know, I can't get my head around how when you look. David Irving had said, if you don't read about your history, you're doomed to repeat it. Well, when the Republicans' backs were to the wall, according to what they say, they had nothing left to do but go forward and go into violence. Now, they're constantly saying that there was an excuse and a reason for violence, you know, for them, because they weren't getting their democratic rights, they weren't being listened to and all the rest of it. Does it sound familiar? Does it sound familiar? Well, that's exactly how it's going. And you know, people like myself are trying to tell our kids that violence does not pay and it's not a way forward.
Are you being listened to, do you think? Or is your job
would you if you're a kid, would you listen to me if I turn around and says
well, I didn't, but it was
balance doesn't pay, and yet of all, when they see what Sinn Féin got out of violence and how they get into politics, which was good. Yes, it was nice to see them get into politics instead of killing and murdering our people and their own people. It was nice to see all those changes that happened. But they have to remember, there was a time when they were against, their backs were against the wall, and they made the excuses. That's why they wanted to go forward and create mayhem in this country and what they did. So loyalism may not be that far away if things don't go right within the protocol.
Just briefly then about the media, and this is something that, you know, I know you've been passionate about for years, and I know we've already covered a fair bit of it there in terms of some of the media reporting, but in terms of loyalism's engagement with the media, particularly young loyalists, I mean, what do you think the media need to do to try and show that the voice of loyalism and people in working class unionist communities are being listened to? And
well, Jimmy, we're about 4 weeks away from another age of attacking our culture over maybe half a dozen bonfires. We're in the process. If you take, I would say, I'll not take the media, mostly the radio media, long to start about the bonfires here and the bonfires there and the bonfire. Just a constant tirade every year. I've listened to it every year for I don't know how long about the bonfires, about the problems with them and all the rest of it. I go back to when every single street had a bonfire. The people in them streets let us put the wood on the top of their outhouses and sheds and that there. They were all with us and for us and that there. But slowly but surely, even that through the media, there's a constant trying to turn ourselves against each other and the communities that we're living in and all this. Now, some of that we have brought upon ourselves by not doing the things that need to be done. Safety first is the most important thing when we're having our bonfires. For our kids, for our children, for the people who live around there. But the media have constantly, over the last 15 years, have done nothing but just constantly chip and chip. I remember stomping up the road there, not further than 300 yards from where we're sitting, and 6 camera crews all sitting waiting for something to happen around the bonfire. And see, because nothing happened, we were all so dejected and so disappointed. And I actually made a few sarcastic comments to them. Said, sorry about that, lads, we've nothing to feed you for your usual. And I got on to
just tell me that. Remember the night you were bit by a dog at a flag protest?
Oh, yes, sir. Our own dog too, by the way, it was. So, but no, I feel around the media stuff, Jimmy, this country to me is a bit corrupt. And when I say corrupt, I know of things that's been happening in Republican communities, and I know of money going missing over the years in reference to grants and money coming into them. It's probably happening in Loyalist areas too. But the fact, I have never seen a journalist wanting to get into looking at the finances of where some of this money goes and where it disappeared to, because the amount of money given to the nationalist community compared to the unionist community, I think, is absolutely massive. And you never see programmes like that. You'll see programmes what Monty McCauley done about guys, and don't get me wrong, 100%, if there's people out there lending money and working on anybody that's funneled, whether it's Catholic or Protestant, I have no issues with the programmes getting done and all the rest of it, but they have to be balanced and fair. They have to be seen to be balanced and fair. But when you've seen the likes of that one that Monty McCauley done, all you've seen in it was Loyalist flags, mostly Loyalists that do this. And I mean, okay, well, if it's mostly Loyalists and that it is in Republican areas, well then, that shows something about the Republican areas. Did they do it? No. So what's it all about? Was it for a specific political party they've done it for? You know, so I believe the media are, you know, a wee bit like what Donald Trump says, you know, fake news. It's and sometimes the fake news sounds better because they don't go into investigative journalism. And there is good journalists in this country. And I can't be, as I have had my rows with Steve Noel and others, I know there's good journalists in this country. But you tell me when the last time was when they went out to look at money going missing from certain projects, and this has happened in the last 4 or 5 years, and money disappearing and all the rest of it. So, you know,
do you think, just to push back a wee bit, play devil's advocate, and I mean this is a point I've accepted before, and that do you think loyalism's failure to sometimes properly engage with the media hasn't helped ourselves either? That it's become a self-perpetuating stereotype, because sometimes loyalism is said, no, we don't talk to the media, we don't engage, and maybe there's legitimate reasons for that, but do you think that has helped inadvertently feed the isolation?
Yeah, well, there was a time, Jamie, whenever we didn't talk to the media for a specific reason, because constantly the media, I could actually give you one, Jamie, that really disgusted me. You know, we were asked a lot of years ago to help in the finding of an individual who was murdered, and people went out of their way, and I mean out of their way, to support and find out information for that journalist and that family, right? Now, I'm not going to tell you who it was or what it was. David Irving was alive at the time, and David asked, could we do this and see if we could find out something about that there. We went out of our way and tried for 3 to 4 weeks to do that, and came back with, and it was passed on to David and then the journalist. And the journalist came out and said, they were telling lies, they were up their neck on it, which was absolutely not true. Because, you know, we had got to a point where we tried to work with journalism because there was so many things going on. There's so many things in loyalism that's went wrong over the years. We can't put our hands up and say, oh, we're holier than thou, because, you know, we've had major drug dealers, we've had murders of people who were up their neck in drug dealing, we have had people put out of the country for drug dealing, and all sorts of stuff like that. So we didn't bring a lot of good stuff onto ourselves. But the relationship with the media at one stage was that we always had a half a dozen guys who would have believed in what was said and would have helped and told the story in the way that probably it should have been told and would have been told. But as time went by and as loyalism lost its entity, what I would sort of say, down to the fact that there were so many people involved in other nefarious activities, the media stripped away from us.
Yeah.
You know, so we don't have too many friends in the media. Where we did at one time, we did have friends.
Need to build that up again.
Well, you know, the media, let's put it like this. If you read the papers every Sunday and you want to analyse loyalism is nothing but a pack of drug dealing scumbags, money lenders, all sorts of things and that there. So it doesn't matter what you or anybody else says. And all that plays into, as well, the media stuff that I'm saying to you about the votes that the Alliance Party have got and taken from middle class, upper class unionism. And a strange thing that a lot of people don't know, a very, very good friend of mine, Oliver Napier, was the leader and the founder of the Alliance Party. And when I first met him, and he wrote to me when I was in jail, and I had the utmost respect for the man because he wanted a political party that was centre road, not into loyalism, not into, and taking a road that people felt and thought they could follow. And I utmost respect for him. When he died, Jimmy, I'm going to be open and honest about this. When he died, he was a Catholic and he went to a Catholic church. I didn't know if I would be welcome or not, but I went and paid my respects and sat outside the church where he was getting buried because I felt it was the right thing to do, because he had done a great bit for me over the years and that. And he was the leader of a political party who were centre road, which we needed in this country. We needed a party that was centre road away from loyalism, and because people they didn't like unionism, they didn't like nationalism, so they had to have something. But what a change in that political party, Jamie. They became so, to me, looking at what they do in the councils, what I hear back from our councillors, and what I see on the TV and radio, they're just another wing of nationalism, you know. But I don't see the unionist people saying that. But maybe it's from one of these ones. They'll not see it until it's too late, until you either start a border poll or stuff like that. But back to the media reference to that, I believe the media also give them some leg up constantly.
Yeah.
There's very,
they have a daily show on BBC
well, that's
Talkback.
what I'm telling you. It's very, very rare I would listen to the TV or the radio and not hear them on. And I wonder, is that the promotion? Is that how the TV and the media on the radio, is that how they're portraying it? They're throwing them in there. They can talk the right sense against the likes of DUP and our people at the minute who are digging their heels in and whatever. And then that makes them, to the ordinary person, and we're all human, and that ordinary person says, oh, well, that's right, sure, that woman needs an operation, or she needs this and needs that. And that, to me, it demonises us to a point where it dehumanises you, that you don't have feelings because you won't go into power to sort wee Johnny's problem out, or we so-and-so, you know. But it's distasteful, worse than anything, you know.
So just finally come to the end, last minute or two, Jim. Obviously, I'm sure we'll hopefully speak again on one of these before then. But the council elections coming up in May. Just very briefly, what would your message be to working class loyalist communities and unionist communities?
I said, I think I talked to you privately and Muir privately about the last election, and I said that I knew that Jim Allister would get a lot of votes. I didn't think he'd get a lot of seats, to be honest with you. I didn't think that. But what did happen was, and if you analyse the number of votes, those votes that went to Jim Allister lost the DUP, the leadership in this country. We need to, as political people, we need to put pressure on our politicians. We can't afford 3-4 political parties. We can't. We're not the size we used to be. Whenever we could have 2 large political parties, maybe getting 2 ministerial seats or 3 and 2 and stuff like that. We're not like that anymore, Jimmy. We have lost so much in the middle and upper class. We need to start to think different. And Jim Allister and the leadership of the DUP and the leadership of the Unionist Party and Billy need to sit down and analyse what we need to do, because we cannot have 4 political parties for the seats that we have. If we ever want to get back to being the leading party in this country, and distasteful as it may be to Jim and all the rest of them, this country is more important than a political party. It's more important than a political party, and they need to see that. They need to see that. They need to be able to eat humble pie and make the moves with each other that brings us 1 or 2 political parties in this country. But don't, Jamie, you're going to have Sinn Féin as the leader party in Northern Ireland and the leading political party in Southern Ireland.
Yeah, challenging 6 months ahead. But Jim, thanks very much for your time, and hopefully we'll follow up again for the election.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you. Cheers.